The premise of a CAPTCHA is already dead. Click on all the bicycles. Do they even work anymore? Spoiler alert, they don't. Sitting there 5 minutes clicking screen after screen of the damn bicycles. Seriously, you don't know what bridges look like by now? We know that your crappy self-driving systems can't tell a crosswalk from a motorcycle. Bots are not the problem. Bots at scale are. You don't test intelligence, you impose a cost that wrecks the unit economics of scraping 1 million accounts a minute. The cognitive arms race is over and the bots won. That's not how it is anymore. Do you hate CAPTCHAs as much as I do? Yeah, I think you probably do. They're just annoying, aren't they? Here you are, using a website, minding your own business, click on all the bicycles. Why? Why are we putting up with these? And more to the point, do they even work anymore? Spoiler alert, they don't. But why do we even have them? So, the idea is we're trying to tell a human from a bot, but the thing you have to understand is, we don't hate bots. Bots per se are not the problem. There are all sorts of bots that are useful. Search engines. You want a search engine to be able to index your site, get you into the search results. Uptime monitors, accessibility tools, AI scrapers. All good bots out there doing all good things. The problem is it's very easy for bots to do things really, really fast over and over again. That's where you come into a problem. A person can click a button once. A bot can click it 10,000 times a second and just keep doing it 24/7 without tiring for no good reason. They might be trying to guess a password, or they might be creating a bunch of fake accounts, making a bunch of fake posts to social media to do their spamming or their astroturfing. You know, here's a political opinion we're trying to hammer and we're trying to make out like there's a lot more support for than there really is. You've seen them. They can spam the forums, they can spam the comment sections, they can spam Discord servers. Buy into my latest crypto scam! They can go buy up all the tickets to a show before anyone else can. Now you want to see the show? You gotta pay a higher price from the scalpers. Or even just overloading servers, driving up costs, making them inaccessible. You know, DDoS attacks. Bots are not the problem. Bots at scale are. This is a scale issue. So a CAPTCHA is a speed bump. They're not anti-bot. They're anti-abuse. The danger is not a computer visiting your website. A computer can visit my website, donate.pagosity.tv. I love it when people go to that website. Why? Because it's a bunch of links. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, or become a regular supporter, Patreon, Subscribestar. You can go to any of those links. That's just a page. I don't care if a bot requests that page 10,000 times a minute. A bot can give me money, but the bots never give me money. I need you to give me money. That's how this works. But it's just an HTML page. Who cares? But when your website is doing something, like making posts that other people will see, you don't want those spam posts going in. The problem is that's really, really, really cheap. And with the proliferation of AI, it's becoming a lot easier as well. You can make 100 users that look like actual users, and they can make 1,000 posts that look like actual posts, not just the same one copy-pasted over and over again. So the idea is to make you prove that you're a person. The problem is, they're really not working anymore. Not like they should. So I decided, just on a theoretical basis, if AI is the problem, maybe AI can be the solution. So I decided to ask some AIs that if they were going to generate a CAPTCHA from scratch, design the entire CAPTCHA system, knowing what we all know today, what would they do? I asked a few different ones. By far, Claude gave me the best answer, so we'll go through that one. I'll also show you a couple that ChatGPT gave me, because they gave me a couple recommendations that Claude didn't that I thought were interesting. But I love Claude. Claude is so straightforward and no nonsense. My prompt was, given everything you know about humans and the state of AI today, purely theoretically, if you were going to set about designing a CAPTCHA from scratch, how would you do it? And in comes Claude to tell it like it is. Honestly, the premise of a CAPTCHA is already dead. and any redesign has to start by admitting the funeral happened. The whole concept was give people a task that's trivial for a human brain and brutal for a computer. That gap doesn't really exist anymore. Modern multimodal models can read distorted text, identify all the crosswalks, solve audio puzzles, and do it faster than your grandma squinting at a fire hydrant. So if I'm designing from scratch in 2026, I'm not trying to outpuzzle the AI, I'm changing what I'm actually measuring. And this is basically the approach that all of the ones I asked came up with. You don't test intelligence, you impose a cost. So what does that mean? The only durable advantage humans have left isn't cognition, it's that running a human is expensive and running a bot is cheap. So lean into proof of work. Make the client burn real, non-trivial compute before the request goes through. It's invisible to a human, their phone idles for 300 milliseconds, but it wrecks the unit economics of scraping 1 million accounts a minute. This is basically what Cloudflare's turnstile and similar systems already lean toward, friction as a toll booth, not a quiz. And the idea here is simple, it would just be a cryptographic challenge. A cryptographic challenge is basically a math problem that's really, really hard to solve, but easy to check. Once you have an answer, you can easily check if it's the right one. So what you do is you have the website give the client this really, really hard problem to solve. It solves that problem in 300 milliseconds. That's nothing for the user. The user won't really notice a delay, but it has to run through that compute to do it. It sends the result back to the website confirms it, and gives you the page. But guess what? Now the bots are not going to be able to do this 10,000 times a second. They'll be able to do it 3 times a second. You're massively imposing the costs of the compute, and if you can get those costs high enough, then whatever benefit they think they're getting from it, whatever money they'll think they'll get from the spamming or the ticket scalping or whatever, it might be cheaper to use that compute to make money some other way. Mine some crypto or run a cloud server or something. That's the thing, compute isn't really expensive, it's just in high demand. And you make it more in high demand for the legitimate uses by imposing the costs on the illegitimate uses. And we can not only solve this problem, but we can make things much more efficient as well. And make it passive and behavioral, not a puzzle the user solves. What I just described to you is invisible to the user. They have no clue it even happened. But also things like mouse jitter, scroll inertia, typing cadence, touch pressure curves, how long you dwell before clicking submit. Humans have actual analog noise in how they move through an AI. Bots running headless browsers and even human-like automation libraries still tend to be statistically too clean or too random. They're either too much one or the other. I'd make the test something the user never consciously interacts with, just instrumentation running quietly in the background, and only flags get escalated to friction. And reputation and attestation also counts for a lot. A single interaction tells you almost nothing reliable anymore. You can use WebAuthn, passkeys, Apple's private access tokens, etc. Things that let a device cryptographically prove I am me, I am a real, consistent piece of hardware that isn't being puppeted by a server farm. Without revealing anything about who's holding it. This doesn't have to be a privacy nightmare. It can just be cryptographic keys, random numbers that tell them nothing about you. Privacy preserving and way harder to fake at scale than solving an image grid. Then if that doesn't work, you can go up to tiered escalation. Don't show everyone a challenge. Score every request invisibly, IP reputation, velocity, behavior signal, attestation token, and only throw friction at the handful that looks sketchy. Most users never see anything. That's already how the good systems work today. The visible click the bus puzzle is the failure mode, not the main defense. If I absolutely must have a human-facing fallback, make it expensive to fake socially, not cognitively. Things like SMS email loop verification, or other proof of personhood schemes, World ID's iris scan approach being the controversial extreme. But these trade can you solve a puzzle for can you keep on minting fresh fake identities forever and ever? That's a much harder problem to brute force than OCR ever was. So the honest summary, I wouldn't design a smarter quiz, I design an economic and biometric trust system where the bot's problem isn't, I can't think like a human, it's, I can't cheaply be one over and over without leaving a trail. The cognitive arms race is over and the bots won. You heard it from Claude. Claude is there declaring victory. The fight moved to cost, identity, and trust, and that's where any sane design lives now. You hear me, Google? We know what you're doing. We know that your crappy self-driving systems can't tell a crosswalk from a motorcycle, and that's why you're having to try to make us the ground truth. Come on! That's not how it is anymore. So like I said, I also asked ChatGPT, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it was basically the same thing, just not as awesomely worded as Claude. But it's the same thing, prove you're a human by identifying the traffic lights. Bots are getting better at that than we are. We can see the traffic lights. They can see the traffic lights really, really fast over and over and over again. But it's the same question. It changes from, can this task be solved by AI, to, can this interaction be performed cheaply, reliably, and at scale by automation? That's a much harder problem. It's the same idea, make it behavioral, not puzzle-based, and use a challenge generation that is unique and ephemeral. And this I kind of think is an interesting idea. Every challenge would be procedurally generated, different layouts, different goals, different interaction sequences, and different timing expectations. Think of it almost like generating a tiny custom game every time. A model cannot simply memorize solutions because every instance is new. But again, this would only be when all of the other methods fail, and then you're sending the user a failure mode, instead of click all the fire hydrants, solve this little puzzle. And as long as it doesn't take longer than 2 or 3 seconds to do so, users probably aren't going to mind. Not sitting there 5 minutes clicking screen after screen of the damn bicycles. Seriously, you don't know what bridges look like by now? And the other interesting idea it had was sensorimotor grounding. Humans are embodied. Examples: rotate an object until it looks balanced. Drag items according to perceived weight and momentum. Briefly manipulate elements that obey simulated physics. These tasks rely on intuitive physical reasoning and interactive feedback loops. And so again, the problem is that if an AI is doing that, it'll either be too good, it'll rotate it perfectly 90 degrees, which a human is not going to do, or it's going to try to fake being a human, meaning it's going to lead more randomly. And again, the problem is you don't want the AIs learning how to do these. So you make each challenge unique, and you just keep modifying them as you go. But it's going back to the most important principle: incorporate economic asymmetry. Human effort, 3 seconds. Bot effort, significant compute and engineering. Because remember, we're not just trying to stop a bot from doing it once. We're trying to stop the bot from doing it 10,000 times a second. A CAPTCHA doesn't need to be impossible for AI. It only needs to make abuse unprofitable. Spam, credential stuffing, fake account creation, and scraping all operate on economics. Raise costs enough, and many attacks disappear. And that's pretty much what all of the AIs I asked said. The winning CAPTCHA will likely ask, can this interaction be automated cheaply and at massive scale, rather than, are you a human? That's the idea. Make them pay for it. And that's where I think there's a missed opportunity. Well, not missed. We could still do this if we wanted to with spam. Email spam, when they added in DKIM signatures. Okay, yeah, there's a signature. It's likely to be good. But the DKIM signature just says that this was created by someone logged in as a valid user, not that they're not a bot. The way you stop spam is to make it costly, and in the past people were saying, well, people aren't going to pay money to send emails. Well, what if you didn't have to? What if, in order to send an email, before your email server will sign it and approve it, your email client had to solve a challenge? A challenge that takes half a second. It happens when you send the email, takes a half second, solves it, sends it up to the server verifies it, signs the email. And then the receiving server not only sees the DKIM signature as well, but also sees that the sender actually successfully completed the challenge. That makes it a lot less likely that it's spam. because spammers rely on the ability to send zillions and zillions of emails really, really cheaply. And any of these systems could do that. X or Discord or Facebook or whoever. Every time you make a post, there could be such a challenge. Make it take 1/3 of a second. People won't notice. But you do it every post you make. Your browser just has to do a little bit of math for 1/3 of a second. And that proves that the post is valid. Or at least makes it a lot less likely that it's a spammer doing a whole bunch of stuff. Won't solve all the problems, but that's the new way we need to think about this. We don't need these fancy reCAPTCHA things and all these extra different things that are getting in the way of the website, and I won't let you go to this website until you do this. This can just be baked into the site itself for everything you do. You won't notice, your computer won't notice, but just that tiny little bit can make it prohibitive for the big bot farms to run their spam and their scams and their flooding techniques and everything else. That's the new way we need to think about this. So hopefully there are others who are in a position to make these changes who are asking these same questions of Claude and all of these others, and maybe they're getting the same ideas. Maybe they're going to do it. Let's hope so anyway. Thank you so very much for watching. Comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. And once again, donate.bogosity.tv. That really keeps me doing this, so thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, stay strong and be free.